Welcome to the Ghost Recaps. Today we will recap an epic historical disaster film called Pompeii. Be ready for spoilers ahead. In the wee hours of the night, a young Milo is peacefully sleeping, but suddenly, he is woken up by some commotion outside. He walks to the door, but immediately he opens it. The peaceful night suddenly turned chaotic. Their village was under attack by the Roman forces. A confused Milo wanders around in the middle of the bloodshed, witnessing his tribe's men being brutally butchered by the Roman soldiers. He sees his father putting up a spirited fight, but unfortunately, he is overwhelmed and killed. His mother tries to carry Milo to safety, but her efforts bore no fruits. A man called Tribune Corvus rides into the now scorched village, and all the survivors are brought and paraded before him. The village was occupied by Celtic rebels who had blocked the trade routes. He was sent to end the rebellion and reopen the trade routes to Rome, so to send a clear message and teach the rebels a lesson. He unsheathes his sword and strikes Milo's mother, killing her. He then orders Proculus to kill them all before riding off, and without hesitation, Proculus kills all the captives, but a clever Milo lies down motionless, pretending to be dead as the rest of his tribe's men are slaughtered. When morning comes, Milo crawls from below a pile of dead bodies. He walks to one of the trees, and the poor boy could not believe his eyes. He finds his parents' dead bodies dangling upside down from the tree, and right there, Milo understood he was now all alone, and his life would never be the same again. When it started raining, Milo wanders around trying to find a dry spot, but there was none, so he sits down below a tree and ends up falling asleep. Unfortunately, his world turned even darker as he is found by cruel men and kidnapped, and just like that, Milo becomes a slave. 17 years later, in the city of Londinium in Britannia, down in the gladiator dungeons, the gates are opened and a now grown Milo appears from the darkness. He is now a gladiator, renowned for his prowess in fighting. He was so dangerous that he is given 3 opponents to face him, in order for it to be remotely considered a fair fight, and when they dared to attack, one after the other, Milo deals with them, and with the blink of an eye, he had killed them all, and majestically walked off the same way he came as the crowd cheered his name. This impressed a businessman and a slave trader called Gracchus so much, that he immediately bought him, and he brought him along from the city of Londinium to the coastal city of Pompeii. But on the way there, as Milo is walking amongst other slaves being dragged from behind while in chains, the princess of Pompeii called Cassia and her beautiful servant passes right beside them, heading back to Pompeii from Rome. Unfortunately, the princess cart hit a pothole, causing one of the horse to fall down and break its neck, and when Milo sees this, he puts his own life at risk as he begs the guard to release him in order to help the horse, but the guard strikes him and denies his request. Cassia quickly intervenes and stops the guard, and Milo is released to help the horse. He gently touches it and feels the source of the pain. He then tells Princess Cassia to apply pressure on its leg, but instead of helping it, he breaks its neck and kills it right there, in front of the princess. But Cassia understands that it was the kindest and only thing to do to save the horse from the intense pain, and although she does not say anything, she was impressed by his selfless action and even exchanges a quick glance with him. And after the long journey, they finally arrive in Pompeii, a beautiful majestic city with the ocean on one side and thick forest on the other. It was well planned and developed with great infrastructure, but above all, it was right at the foot of an active volcano. Cassia and her very beautiful servant arrive at the palace, where her mother Aurelia and her father Severus give her a princess-worthy welcome. But while Cassia is given such a warm welcome to their palace on the hill, Milo on the other hand had a very different experience. They are taken to the other side of the city, the dungeons where the slaves are locked. As he is eating his dinner, Milo is surrounded by other gladiators. It turns out, he had previously killed the brother to one of them, so they want revenge. They try to attack him, but Milo fights back. Unfortunately, he is overpowered and his head is held under the water to drown. But Milo bites off the fingers of the man and gets a fighting chance. But before he could finish him, guards walk in and separate the fight. Milo is thrown inside a cell where he finds the current champion gladiator, a black man called Atticus, a man so powerful and skillful that he had won all his fights, and he only needed to win one more fight in order to earn his freedom. Early the next day, the gladiators are released in order to train for the upcoming festival, and when Atticus asks for a sparring partner, all the other gladiators shy away, but a courageous Milo walks out from among them and challenges the champion, and the two start fighting. Atticus easily knocks him down, but Milo stands up and tries again, but ends up losing his sword. But as the two are fighting, a man sees his chance and removes a knife ready to shank Milo from behind. Atticus sees this and quickly gets Milo out of the way, saving him. And when Milo sees the man on the ground and the blade next to him, he knew Atticus had saved his life. Later on, he asks why he saved his life, and Atticus explains that no gladiator should die from a blade to the back. he then promises to kill him when they fight next. The next day, a fleet of boats arrive in the Pompeii harbor carrying a guest from Rome. It is Senator Quintus Corvus and his men. As he rides down the streets of Pompeii, the citizens of Pompeii had to turn and face away as a man of his status is revered as a god. Severus and his wife quickly make their way to his campsite to welcome him. Severus had invited him as he wanted Rome to invest in Pompeii. He wants this wealthy man to build bigger and better aqueduct for better sanitation for his people, and a new arena to put this small coastal city on the map. Later that night, some of the gladiators are cherry-picked from their cells and led towards the palace, but on the way, Milo sees a familiar face. It was Proculus, the man responsible for the killing of his entire tribesmen. He gets vivid flashbacks of the gruesome night when he lost everything, and when they finally reach, they are paraded in front of the royals to be used for sexual entertainment by the elderly perverted women. Atticus looked so comfortable with the entire thing, but for Milo, his disgust could be seen through his face. On the other side, Severus is showing the senator the plans for the new arenas he wants to construct, and Corvus looks very excited to invest, but before the deal was sealed, he makes a very creepy demand. He demands for Severus to send his daughter to him with some drinks. Reluctantly, Severus searches for his daughter and takes her to Senator Corvus, and to his surprise, the two immediately recognize each other the moment they laid eyes on one another. It turns out, the two had met in Rome, where the senator had made several advances towards her, but she refused them. In fact, she returned back to Pompeii trying to escape from this creepy old man, and for Senator Corvus, he had followed her to Pompeii to continue his pursuit of her, but she was having none of it. As the people below are busy partying, the magma in the volcano is growing more and more violent, causing the entire city to tremble. This made the horses very restless in their paddock and injure anybody who tried to calm them down. So Cassio orders the guard to bring Milo to the stable to help. When Milo walks into the stable, he finds the horse very restless, so he slowly approaches it with his hand stretched so as not to startle it, and eventually, he holds its head in his hands and started petting it, causing the horse to completely calm down and relax. And when Cassia walks in, she finds Milo already on the horse, gently walking around the stable. She was so amused of how easily and quickly he was able to calm the horse down. When Milo notices how Cassia was looking at him, he stretches out his arm and Cassia used it to climb on the horse. Then the two knock down the door and ride off from the palace towards the mountains. Milo had a clear chance to escape, but he knew Cassia would be blamed for the entire thing. So he waited for the guards to catch up and stupidly surrenders himself. He is taken directly to Senator Corvus, who wants to immediately kill him on the spot, but Cassia begs for his life, so he is instead given a punishment of 15 lashes. The day of the Venalia festival finally comes, and hordes of people line up heading towards the arena, completely unaware of what is brewing beneath their feet. As when Gracchus looks up, he could not believe his eyes. The existing cracks on the arena were growing bigger and bigger, and new cracks were forming left, right and center. He calls Severus and shows him the cracks, trying to convince him to postpone the games, but Severus refuses. He could not risk losing the senator's funds, so he commands him to conduct the event as per the plans. As Atticus and Milo are walking towards the arena to face each other as promised, they are redirected in the opposite direction and into the arena. It turns out, as per the advice of the guard, Gracchus had completely gone against his words of releasing Atticus if he wins, and he wants Atticus to die in that arena instead of giving him his freedom. A glorious death, they called it. The gladiators are guided to the center of the arena, and their legs are bound with shackles to a pillar behind them to restrict their movements. After being given their weapons, the ceremony starts. Severus had prepared a special surprise for the senator, a ceremony to celebrate and recreate his famous victory against the Celtic rebellion, in which Milo's entire family and tribesmen were killed, and which propelled Corvus to his current position as the senator. And as expected, he is very flattered by this honor. But for Atticus, Milo and the other gladiators tied to the pillar, they are the sacrificial lamb. The other gladiators are armed and dressed like Roman forces, and even given the Roman emblem to represent the Roman forces. And for Milo and his group of 7, they represent the Celtic forces, who are supposed to be all slaughtered and killed. And immediately Senator Corvus marks the beginning of the games. The so-called Roman forces charge and attack. Atticus and his friends Milo try their best to defend themselves, but they are easily overwhelmed by the numbers, forcing them to retreat onto the stones behind. And as expected, they start falling one after the other. But as the rest fall, Milo and Atticus' fighting skills are unparalleled as they put up a spirited fight, and when they become too many, Atticus cuts the pillar behind and it falls on the soldiers below. Milo then runs and climbs onto a horse, and using the chain tied to his leg, he sweeps all the remaining men. He then takes the emblem of Rome and in front of everyone, breaks it into two, showing the ultimate disrespect towards Senator Corvus and the Empire of Rome. When Senator Corvus sees this, his demeanor completely changes and he becomes very angry. First, he forces Cassia and her parents to accept his proposal, or else her and her entire family would be hanged for allowing such a display of disrespect to the Emperor of Rome on their arena. So Cassia accepts to marry him in order to save her family. Real Roman soldiers run into the arena and ready their bows to kill the two, but before the senator gives his go-ahead for them to shoot, Cassia acts quickly and stops them, by showing a thumbs up which signifies for them to stand down. Angrily, Cassia is taken by the Roman guards and escorted back to the villa to wait for Senator Corvus, but the senator was not ready to let Milo live, so he sends Proculus, the champion of Rome, to face Milo and kill him, and for the first time, Milo was face to face with one of the men who killed his entire tribe, and this was his chance to take revenge for his people. He attacks and a full-blown war begins. Unfortunately, he is easily overpowered and knocked to the ground and his sword broken, so Proculus orders for him to get a better sword, but as the two are fighting, the arena begins to shake even more violently, and finally, as everyone watches, the volcano erupts, sending thick smoke flying high into the sky. The old arena finally gives in and collapses on itself. The thick beams on top also falls, crushing the VIP section with everyone on it. Milo charges and knocks Proculus into the dungeons below where the rest of the gladiators are. He opens the doors, releasing all the gladiators. Luckily, Proculus narrowly manages to escape. When the dust finally settles, Severus regains his consciousness. He picks a sword and crawls towards Senator Corvus in order to kill him and save his daughter, but the senator also wakes up and overpowers him. He then stabs him in the chest, and leaves the two rulers of Pompeii laying in their bloody puddle awaiting their unavoidable fate, their eventual demise. On the other side, hordes of people are crammed at the harbor trying to board the ships and escape. 4 people try to sneak their way into the boats but are thrown back to die. But for the rich who have money, they are given passage. The thick ash cover and smoke from the volcano eventually completely blocks the sun, turning day into night as the entire place is engulfed by darkness. Hot flaming rocks are also propelled, crushing into the houses and setting the people on fire. Milo and Atticus make it out of the arena ruins, but before they could go anywhere, they hear Cassia's mother calling for help, so they quickly go to help her. Unfortunately, she had already reached the point of no return, and with her last breath, she begs Milo to save her daughter Cassia. So while everyone else was trying to run towards the harbor to escape, a brave Milo is heading in the opposite direction, running directly towards the palace for Cassia, and when he eventually makes it, he finds the house collapsing on her. He quickly kicks down the door and carries her outside. Unfortunately, as her very beautiful servant is fetching some water for her to drink, the entire cliff side begins to shake and it breaks off, and she falls down the cliff to her death. On the other side, as boats try to leave the harbor, the mountain erupts again, sending rocks flying even further into the ocean, hitting and sinking some of them. It also produces a shock wave so strong that it pushes the waters back from the shores, forming a big wave heading directly towards the city. The tsunami sweeps everything in its path, and Pompeii's citizens are sandwiched between an erupting mountain on one side, and a tsunami on the other. Although most people are killed, some miraculously survive, and for a brief moment, things seem to have cooled down, but suddenly, it begins raining small rocks, forcing Milo and Cassia to take cover. What was once a marvel of human architecture had been turned into ruins, with dead bodies scattered everywhere. As Milo and Cassia are running towards the harbor, they come across Atticus, who advises them to change direction, so instead, they go into the arena to get horses, so as to ride into the hills, as the harbor was no longer an option. Unfortunately, as Cassia is saying her final goodbyes to her parents, the senator appears behind her and kidnaps her, and by the time Milo reaches her again, the senator is already on his chariot ready to leave. The Roman soldiers try to attack, but the two gladiators easily deal with them. Atticus instructs Milo to go after the princess and he volunteers to deal with Proculus, and the two men face each other with swords ready to fight, and a full-blown war begins. The two seem evenly skilled as none of them truly dominates the fight, but after fighting for a while, Proculus managed to knock Atticus to his knees and drive his sword into his chest, but Atticus does not give up. He breaks the sword and holds Proculus by his neck. He then stabs him on the neck with the small piece, killing him. As Senator Corvus is running through the streets on his chariot, Milo appears from behind with a horse following them. The streets collapses beneath his feet, but he does not stop. Pillars fall on his path, but he does not even slow down. The chariot hits a rock and Senator Corvus is sent flying, and the chariot also crashes. When Milo catches up, he immediately goes to check on Cassia, who is okay. The senator appears from behind and attacks the two, and the two men start fighting. Although the senator is an old man, he manages to take Milo's sword and corner him, but suddenly, A rock crashes where they are and the entire place is covered with dust, and from the dust, Senator Corvus appears smiling at Cassia, thinking he had won the fight and Milo is dead, but Milo jumps from above and knocks him to the ground. Then very quickly, Cassia handcuffs his arm to the chariot. Milo picks a sword and points it towards the senator who is now begging for his life, but when he sees the mountain erupt again, Milo decides to leave his fate to the gods. He gets on a horse and the two ride off. At the same time, the mountain erupts again, sending a gigantic fireball rolling down the mountain engulfing everything on its path. When Atticus sees this, he gathers all his remaining strength and stands up. He raises up his hand in the air, and rejoices as he is dying a free man. Milo and Cassia try to escape from the coming death, but the horse was not fast enough. Milo might have been the greatest hero in Pompeii, but there was no way of outrunning nature. He takes Cassia into his arms and kisses her, a slave from unknown tribe kissing the princess, and when the wave eventually catches up, the bodies of the two are covered in the volcanic ash and mummified while kissing, a truly glorious death for a slave. Thank you for watching and please like and subscribe for more.